There is an interesting meme that I see pop up on the internet. I saw over the weekend, and the meme presents this graphic. It's not graphic in itself, but it is a graphic, and it's one of those flow charts that says when you can do something and when you can't. You know, you've seen them before. Should you eat supper? Question, and then below it, is it time for supper? Yes. You go one direction. No, go another. Yes. Do you have food in the refrigerator? Yes. All the way down the line. No, go shopping. If it says no, go shopping, then eat supper. Well, it was a whole meme and graph from apparently the medieval ages on when a married couple should have sexual relations. And as I'm looking at this, it really is highlighting something that's important, which is one of my main focuses on this program. By the way, speaking of which, you're listening to the Catholic Audio Media Podcast, and I'm sure you already know that because you clicked on the podcast when you tuned into your particular platform. But the Catholic Audio Media Podcast, and as you know, we're here every single Monday through Friday. Well, one of the things that you will notice, and this is an issue that I wonder if the Lord is trying to correct the heck out of the Catholic Church and maybe Christianity in general. And it has nothing to do with sex. So even though that was the focus, because that was the meme I saw over the weekend on X, actually. And then I saw it on one of the Discords I'm part of, which is the Uncharted Catholic Man. And what you notice is the entire focus is on avoiding sin. Because every time you follow the path and you follow the flow chart and it comes to no, it's a stop. That is a sin. And the focus is not committing a sin. And there you go. And this is something that is so strong in Catholicism that I have to wonder if God, through this whole abuse crisis and all the persecution we're going through, everything is not slapping the church upside the head and saying, of course you need to avoid sin. But the commandment is to love God and love neighbor. So if you seek to love God and neighbor, you are going to also, by default, seek to avoid sin. But if you just seek to avoid sin, you may not love God and love neighbor. And that actually seems to be the theme in today's first reading from the Thessalonians. And we're continuing with Paul's letter to the Thessalonians. By the way, this is also the memorial of St. Augustine. Yesterday was the memorial of St. Monica, which, of course, was his mother. And today is the memorial of St. Augustine. And, of course, if you plan to say anything against St. Augustine, you might want to go by that flow chart, go flow chart. Are you going to say something against St. Augustine? Yes, it goes one way. No, it goes in. No, okay. Next thing. But yes, did you know that the Pope is an Augustinian, is a member of the Augustinians? Yes. Don't say anything against Augustine. No. Well, learn that first. So, the Pope is an Augustinian. Well, anyway, this is the memorial of St. Augustine, doctor of the church, extremely intelligent human being, great philosopher, and some people have some arguments on his moral teaching. He also, for at least a time, believed in double predestination. You may remember last Friday, there was a man, I was reading his subreddit comment about having a bad confession, and the man happened to, God created certain people to go to heaven, certain people to go to hell. It seems like that's what the church is teaching. I said, no, that is Calvinism. Well, Augustine believed in it. It's called double predestination, but not for his entire life, but for a time he believed in double predestination, which is the belief that some people were created specifically to go to heaven and some people were created specifically to go to hell. If you want to learn more of this as it appears in Calvinism, look up the acronym TULIP. And it explains it can explain a lot of what is believed in Calvinism. But we, in fact, are not Calvinists. So that's an important thing. So we don't believe in that. But, and one thing I've never understood about Calvinism and the belief that God creates certain people to go to heaven and God creates certain people to go to hell, which we as Catholics do not believe. And as you may have guessed, the founder of this philosophy was a man by the name of Calvin. We understand it was John Calvin. We don't believe in that. But one thing that never made any sense to me, just never made any sense to me, is if God created people that no matter what they do, they go to heaven, and they created other people that no matter what they do, they go to hell, why care about what you do in the first place? That's never made any sense to me. There are people that say that. Well, if you're going to go to heaven no matter what, then who cares? If you're going to go to, what you do. If you're going to go to hell no matter what, then who cares? No matter what you do. And that is Calvinism. Well, the real commandment is to seek to love God and love neighbor. And all sin basically comes from that. Do remember that the Ten Commandments can be summed up into two. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the two commandments. If you live those two commandments, you will automatically live the 10. But you can live the 10 and not live the 2. And that goes back to our meme. If you are focused on not committing sin, you may never love God and neighbor, ever. You may be this obnoxious buffoon who may go to church every Sunday, drives everyone crazy, nasty as all get out, has your AR-15 in your basement or next to your bed just waiting to shoot someone who comes in, who trying to get out of the cold, whatever. But you claim to follow the 10 Commandments. But the commandments are really to love God and love neighbor. And we find that in today's reading. This is from the 3rd chapter of Thessalonians. I encourage you to look it up, 7 through 13. Again, I don't read the readings for various reasons. A lot of it having to do with copyright. But we will see that the Lord says these powerful words. St. Paul says these powerful words, how he is encouraged that the people are practicing their faith, and that encourages him. And in doing so, they are growing in love of God and in love of neighbor. And therefore, he is calling for the Lord to strengthen their hearts in holiness, that they may be blameless before the Lord. So he's congratulating them first for loving God and loving neighbor. And then he's happy that they are, in fact, this is encouraging to him. This is really important to him. It really goes back to that line that you can find from Jesus and from the apostles, that his joy, and Jesus' joy, is made complete in that they, the apostles and everyone else, loves God and loves neighbor. And this is important because that's what he's demonstrating, that his joy is being made complete. And in that, because they are living their faith. It actually comes from John 15:11, where the Lord says that, what makes him joyful is that his joy is in others, and that their joy is made full. And so this is it. This is what Paul is excited about. He's going through persecution. He's going through a rough time, but he is strongly encouraged by the fact that the Thessalonians are living the faith, are celebrating. And remember, and this is where this is part of God upsiding the head of the church. Because when the church focuses just on morality, you might as well be the philosophy department at Harvard University and not be the Roman Catholic Church. Because morality is important. I'm not saying it isn't, but our faith is more than that. It's kind of like, and when I was at St. Anthony in Alston, I was surrounded by Harvard University. I would always use as an example the physics department of Harvard University. And I would always say about the physics department at Harvard University that it didn't matter what anyone taught about other things besides physics, but you would listen to them when it came to physics, and you would understand that if you chose not to listen to them, you were putting yourself in danger, because when you disobey the law of physics, things go seriously wrong. Well, in the same way, if you just focus on morality, and morality is important, but if you just focus on morality and you don't understand the main focus is to love God and love neighbor, then you're like people who are following the laws of physics and don't have a clue why. And if you take that to the nth degree and you say you don't know any of the laws of physics, one of the laws of physics, of course, is gravity, and you turn around and say, and I understand that everyone is obeying this law that we don't jump out a window here on the 5th floor, but why is it a problem? I don't understand. Because you don't understand the laws of physics. And so when you focus just on morality because that's the rule, then you don't understand what Christ is teaching behind all of that, which is rooted in love of God and love of neighbor. And what are love of God and love of neighbor rooted in? They are rooted in the reality of knowing who we truly are as human beings, or I guess that would be whom we truly are as human beings. We are truly are whom? To whom we truly are as human beings, and what our universe and our place in it is all about. That's what our faith is all about. It's not just about following rules and following moral rules, because if you don't understand the rest of it, the moral rules will eventually collapse on you. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Catholic Audio Media Podcast on your favorite podcast platform. You can now leave a message for us, which we can air and discuss on this program. Just call 617-297-7452. That's 617-297-7452. 617-297-7452. Feel free to call, leave a comment, a question, or even feedback, and we may play it on the air. I can discuss your comment or question as well, so give that a try. 617-297-7452, 617-297-7452. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Catholic Audio Media. Patreon.com/Catholic Audio Media. Check us out. Check what we have to offer. Previews of upcoming podcasts. Previews of upcoming columns over at catholicaudiomedia.substack.com. Your ability to comment, make suggestions, even make suggestions in upcoming programs. Check us out. Patreon.com, Catholic Audio Media. We're back, and we're talking about this powerful message from St. Paul. He's all excited that they are living their faith and calling them to live a holy life. What does holy mean? We've discussed that before. It means to live a life set apart. Live a life differently than others. How do we do that? We do that by being people of prayer. That's absolutely important. If we don't pray, then all of that whole thing will collapse. So we got to understand it. And one of the things that's important is we want to understand our morality within the context of our faith, but in the context of what we call in German, for those of you who speak German, I don't, but we do know the term, Sitzenleben, your situation in life. That's not to be confused with situation ethics, but it's to understand that you're called to live your faith, but your focus has to be on love of God, love of neighbor, which cites Paul. And how do you do that? You are in contact with God and you bring everything in prayer to the Lord. Everything in prayer to the Lord. When things go wrong, when things go right, when you find yourself walking down the wrong path, when you find yourself walking down the right path. One of the most important things to know is if you're going to be in a situation, this is really important for people to understand now. If you're going to be in a situation which you feel could lead you down the wrong path. Now, I'm not talking about if you're on your way to Mass and someone offers you a piece of gum. I'm not talking about that. Oh, what do I do if someone offers me a piece of gum? What if it's my boss? No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something more interesting, and that is maybe you're going on a business trip. And maybe you're afraid that you could end up in a compromising situation. Actually, compromising situation isn't the right word. Compromising situation is one where you're with your secretary on a business trip. You're driving on the way to the conference and you get into an accident, and you're in an accident in a car with your secretary. Nothing happened. You were doing everything you were supposed to do, but some people may call it a compromising situation. So I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about, great example would be that couple that got caught in that kiss cam. I'm surprised it took that many years for that to happen. When I first saw one of those kiss cams, which, by the way, since I'm not sitting next to anyone I'd be kissing, I've never appeared on one, and I've never kissed anyone on one because I never appeared one, but I never could. So we'll just leave it at that. But I'm surprised it took as long as it did for that to happen, because I said, someone is going to get caught in one of these things. But anyway, there's the compromising situation. That's a great example. And of course, it destroyed a lot of things. I think the CEO is no longer the CEO. I think it caused problems in the marriage and the whole bit. Okay. But if they were seeking to, if one of them was, or maybe both, we'll just say whatever, was seeking to live a Catholic life, a good Catholic life, and they weren't planning to be in that position at the stadium watching the Coldplay concert, whatever the case, I think the most important thing was that they reached out in prayer to God and maybe the saints and whomever and say, don't let us be in a compromising situation. Which means do not let us, which doesn't mean don't let us be caught on the kiss cam. It means don't let us be in a situation that would compromise our commitments, our vows, our sacraments, whatever. You see, that's what it means. Do I do that? Do I make those kind of prayers? You bet I do. Of course I do. Why would I tell you to do this if I didn't do that? Because obviously in the position that I'm in as a priest, it's easy to end up walking down a path that could be that could be compromising. No, that could lead down a path that could be compromising, and you don't want that to happen. So you always bring that to prayer. And does the Lord help you in that? Yes, absolutely. And what I'm talking about is not like I'm going to end up walking down, accidentally walk into the wrong theater, and this theater is an X-rated movie theater. No, I'm not talking about that. Oh, the Lord prevented me from accidentally walking into an X-rated movie theater. But what I'm talking about is to find yourself walking down a path where, like, we talked about this with Sister about a week and a half ago, where you said, well, it's okay if I do this, and that's okay, but then it's okay if I do this else, and that's kind of okay, and then it's okay if I do this, and that's not okay. Maybe a good example, one of the things I do, but it could be praying that this situation doesn't happen. When I go out, maybe we'll have a business meeting, or maybe I'll go out with friends or a friend or whatever, and they may ask me if I want a beer. My answer is always, unless I'm not driving, and definitely not driving for the rest of the night, my answer is always no. And they'll go, why? Oh, you don't drink. I said, no. I don't generally. I really don't. When I do, it's extremely limited. But the reason is that if I get stopped by the cops, I end up on the front page of a newspaper, right? And that's my excuse. Whether that's true or not, that's my excuse. And they go, oh, yeah, you're right. You're a Catholic priest and you'd be drinking and da, 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 da. And remember, if you have any alcohol, it doesn't matter how much you have, you're driving under the influence. You said, well, I wasn't, 0.08, I think it's up to right now. I wasn't 0.08. No, you weren't. But since you were 0.000 whatever, you had an alcoholic beer, just one that didn't put you anywhere near 0.08, but you were driving under the influence. Now, a police officer explained that to me once when I asked him, what is the legal limit? And he said, well, the legal limit is 0.08, but it doesn't matter. You could be driving under the influence, and one beer can put you into that position. Okay, so do you see what I'm saying? But you don't want to end up in that position. So you pray to the Lord to give you the wisdom and give you the situations that allow you to say no. And then it may turn around that everyone else is there is just getting loaded and you're the only one who isn't. And we'll say you're on a business trip and no one is driving, so we're all going to go up their hotel that night. Well, that might give you a chance to say, well, I think I have to make some phone calls and I'm going to leave. But, pray that the Lord helps you to do that. You see what I'm saying? So you pray asking the Lord to help you not to cross those boundaries that would lead you away from what St. Paul says, the pursuit of holiness. But the pursuit of holiness begins with loving God and loving neighbor. It does not begin by following the moral law, because you can be an atheist and follow the moral law. And many atheists do. I say that all the time. How many atheists do you know that because they're atheists, they are by default murderers, or adulterers, or thieves, or whatever? Liars. None. Just because someone's an atheist doesn't mean that that is who they are. And just because someone's a Christian doesn't mean that is who they aren't. We've seen that path before. So you want to be celebrating your faith. You want to be people who love God and love neighbor, but you don't want to be you don't want to make the focus to be just following rules and following the moral law, because too many people are like that, and they wouldn't know Jesus if he came down in front of them. I mean, I'm sorry, this is true. You see that all the time. Some of these people, as you know, I always complain, are these influencers online. You say they're always talking about the moral law and this is the way it should be. And one of my favorite is the person who'll talk about how dedicated they are to the Latin Mass, and they go to the Latin Mass and that's the way it should be. And they refuse to go to the Vatican II Mass, but they call it the Novus Ordo, and they refuse to go because they'll only go to the Latin Mass, and then talk about how much they believe in the Second Amendment and they own an AR-15. It absolutely blows my mind when I see that. There is nothing wrong with the Second Amendment. There's nothing wrong with owning an AR-15. But my love of God and neighbor says it'll be a cold day in hell I'll ever own one. That's me. I'm a veteran. The cold day in hell I'll ever own one. Why? Because I don't want to shoot someone because they tried to steal my TV. Because I'm not worried about that. I obviously like the TV, even though I don't watch it that much. But I don't want to shoot someone because they tried to steal my TV. Which, by the way, if you are in a state that has stand your ground laws, you are absolutely legally able to do that. But are you living a holy life if you are prepared to do that, or if you're doing that? These are important questions to ask. And this is what Paul is opening that door to. He's all celebrating that they're living their faith. He's celebrating that they're demonstrating their love of God and love of neighbor. He's celebrating all that. But he's also demonstrating that the morality is important after love of God, love of neighbor. because if your focus is just on living a moral life, that you're missing the point. And this is what he's saying, that you live, that your holiness will the Lord will find you in holiness. Well, how is that going to happen? That you have chosen to be in relationship with the Lord, in touch with the Lord, and seeking to live the Lord, and to do the Lord's will. We were talking last Friday about that poor guy who went through that very difficult confession. And in that difficult confession, you can say, I said that priest, from what I'm reading, I mean, obviously it could be, I didn't hear the other side of the story, which obviously I can't. But that priest, if that is an accurate description, was not demonstrating love of God and love of neighbor. He just wasn't. But he was following a certain moral code. And you need both. And the sign of that is living a way that you are acting in a way that demonstrates that you are loving God, loving neighbor. That doesn't mean you don't have to be stern with someone sometimes, but you are stern with someone in a loving way. In the Navy, they taught us that whenever you criticize someone, you always had to praise them for something else. You always had to mix the two. So you never turn around and say, oh, you could be better. You are the disgusting sinner. You are this, that. And no, you're more pastoral. Well, okay. You're seeking to live a holy life, but this avenue you're walking down is leading you away from your goals. So let's talk about how you get on the track that leads you closer to your goals. That's a different way of doing it. But it is understanding the correct way of living your faith by loving God, loving neighbor, and then seeking to live a holy life in that order. We'll be back on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Catholic Audio Media Podcast. We'll be right back. You can now leave a message for us, which we can air and discuss on this program. Just call 617-297-7452. That's 617-297-7452. 617-297-7452. Feel free to call, leave a comment, a question, or even feedback, and we may play it on the air. I can discuss your comment or question as well, so give that a try. 617-297-7452, 617-297-7452. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Catholic Audio Media. Patreon.com/Catholic Audio Media. Check us out. Check what we have to offer. Previews of upcoming podcasts. Previews of upcoming columns over at catholicaudiomedia.substack.com. Your ability to comment, make suggestions, even make suggestions in upcoming programs. Check us out. Patreon.com, Catholic Audio Media. We're back. Don't forget to check that patreon.com/Catholic Audio Media. Check that out because you get to hear a preview of our programs, what's going on and what's coming and the whole bit. And also of columns and everything else. So patreon.com, Catholic Audio Media. In any case, we are here every single Monday through Friday. We're a program. We do a program a day, half an hour every show. So it's kind of a lot to put this together for you. We got some great interviews coming up. We've got an interview, which I haven't done them yet as of this recording, and that is an interview which should actually be airing next week on the Dominicans are celebrating the Rosary, especially a Rosary event next week. And then we're going to be looking at a movie. Got another interview about a movie that's coming up. I'll give you more details on that. That movie is going to be a one-day thing on October 7th. Why would it be on October 7th? I don't know. Oh, maybe you can figure that one out. At least a little hint. In any case, the interview will air before October 7th, by the way. So in any case, we got some great stuff coming. I mean, look at what we've talked to. We talked to Justin this week about ministering to the gay community. The week before, we talked with a nun who wrote the curse he chose, about vampires. We've had all kinds of interviews along the lines, talked about Cardinal Pell. We talked about all kinds of things. Cardinal Thwan, great show. So we'll be back next week. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back next week. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a blessed day.